Hare Krishna, welcome to class 12 of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going to start looking at reading from the 12th chapter of the first canto, and it's great to be with you all again. Let's start with some kirtan.
Okay, welcome, sweet soul. So wonderful to be with you. Let's start with a deep clearing breath. Inhale through your nose, fill up. Musicians audio. Open your mouth, exhale, let it go. Our opening prayers. Let's open our hearts. Inhale. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, letting everything else dissolve. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Shri Shri Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Ramat Bhakti Sangha and beyond ki, Shastra Study Group ki, Hari Hari Bol.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripasindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hi, great to be back. We had a short little trip that included visiting New Vrindavan. It was very timely because we just read that purport in the 10th chapter, I think, where Srila Prabhupada talks about simple living and the power and majesty of just like trusting in Krishna's system and living off the land and protecting cows. And New Vrindavan is maybe the earliest project in ISKCON that aimed at cow protection and farm life, and it's still going strong. So we're happy to be back and feeling nourished by that. We're going to jump into chapter 12. And so usually with these containers, we do like 13 classes. I'm thinking if we do
12.
well, we usually do 13, I think.
Sorry. Right.
But I think if we do one more, that'll cover like 3 more classes today, and then 2 more will cover the rest of the canto. That's the goal. So it'll be a little bit of a faster pace.
We'll start Canto 2.
And then we're going to go into Canto 2. We're going to have a Canto 2 study because what else are you going to do after you read Canto 1? You can't stop there. I mean, it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. So even Krishna's like, you want to keep reading. So yeah, but let's start with some reflections from anything you heard. There's some nice reflections in the WhatsApp, Canto chapters 10 and 11 had some nice content there. Anything you heard that you already shared or didn't share, let's get the ball rolling, and then we'll jump into chapter 12.
I'll start us.
Amy, yeah.
Just this whole past week, a few things I've been thinking about is the stuff I put in the chat this week. The enlightened leadership, which is defined, but I think we've got that here at the Bhakti House with Shamya and Kishori. Their teachers have, they represent their teachers, and you can see that if you know them and their teachers. The next thing is another thing you talked about was like the battles in our heart. And Krishna is our agent. He's the one that's guiding us and leading us through these experiences, the challenges that the material world brings to us.
Right.
And the other part was all the problems, the 4 fears. And the fear part really resonated with me with stuff that's been going on recently. And it was like, I don't remember the whole thing, but it was like, all you got to do is chant these 16 words, and that's, the fear vanishes. And it does when you're doing the chanting. It goes somewhere, which is great.
Yeah.
But then you have to come back here.
Yeah, because you quoted a purport where Prabhupada's talking about eating, sleeping, mating, and defense or fear are like the basic functions of animal life, and also humans have that. but we're meant to have something more. But of all the four, Prabhupada says the fearing one is defense, and fear is the hardest one because you're always stuck like trying to figure out what the next problem is that's going to come at you. And yeah, I resonate with what you're saying too. It's a scary world, increasingly so. And then at the same time, the chanting works, and so does reading Bhagavatam. It's one of the reasons why I look forward to Tuesday nights, like a deep dive into. If it's not Bhagavatam, it's like whatever reading, Bhagavad Gita, Isha Upanishad, anything bhakti related. It just works. So yeah, Prabhupada was asked once how he feels when he chants Hare Krishna. He said, "I feel fearless."
Mhm.
So I think we're all getting like a taste of that. Thank you. And Allison had her hand up.
Thanks, Haribol. I
Howdy.
just appreciate it was something that you said, and it was also in the purport in chapter 11, verse 19, and that there are no impediments and the path is open for everyone. And I just loved what you said. Don't try to keep yourself out and don't gatekeep from yourself. So maybe if you think you're not doing enough, maybe you are. Like, don't tell yourself you're not doing enough, so walk away from this path, but
Right.
keep trying. And as long as you're pointing into the direction toward Krishna and Bhakti, I mean, I never thought I would play the cartels or lead a kirtan, and I did. So I'm not gatekeeping
Haribol.
from
Yeah.
myself. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate because it's easy to say I'm not doing enough. Maybe it's not for me. I'm not keeping up. I'm
I'm
not
not
getting
cut out for
initiated.
this.
And
For other people. I don't belong here.
yeah,
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. All that.
right.
Definitely. Thank
So
you. It's
yeah.
very much in line with what Prahlad Maharaj is saying in our fifth, in our Friday morning, seventh canto readings, where he's really helping himself get out of his own way and pumping himself up. That, well, I'm practicing bhakti, and for Krishna, that's enough. Even though I have so many disqualifications coming from being the son of like the most evil person to ever walk the planet. Um, and how he put him in like a school to be like brainwashed. So he had all kinds of things against him, but he was like, no, 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 Krishna will see past that, so I have to do it too. Yeah, thank you. Um, any more?
I have one real quick.
Yeah.
Hard bowl, everybody. Just at the end of the chapter 39, I kind of got stuck on that because I thought it was so interesting and amazing that it talked about how the Krishna's wives, they didn't even know he was the Supreme Lord. To the wives,
Yeah.
he was their husband. To his friends, he was a friend. To his mother, he was a son. They didn't even know that who he was, but they still, I don't know if they still believe, but the other line that got me said, the Lord cannot be known by the mercy of the Lord only and by no other means. So I wasn't really sure what that meant and how they knew he was the Lord if he just always acted like their friend. He didn't come in with, guns blazing, here I am to save everybody. He was just himself and they just loved him and he loved them.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the purport again.
Okay.
11139.
And it even says how the atheists are unaware of him as a supreme controller. It's like
Right. The lack of awareness of somebody who's not practicing bhakti or is an atheist or something is very different. It's categorically different than the lack of awareness of somebody who's situated in pure bhakti, like his wives or parents. That's managed. Their so-called ignorance is managed by Yoga Maya. The reason why they're not aware moment to moment that they're dealing with God is because they're actually situated higher than just a worshiper of God. They're situated in a pure loving relationship with him. And that relationship for them, the wives, it's a conjugal relationship. For the parents, it's a parental relationship, friends, etc. That relationship would not function in the presence of an unbroken remembrance that we're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so the Supreme Personality of Godhead isn't being approached like formally at a distance with obeisances and glorification of his greatness. He's intimately associating with these people. These are pure devotees who are getting his entire self. He's reciprocating with them in these ways that they want to love him. And so that's actually incredibly high. That it's pointing out the irony of it, that they appear to be as ignorant as like somebody who doesn't know anything about anything. They're just dealing with Krishna as if he's just some guy, their husband or whatever, another man, when he's not. But they're only able to have that position and that intimacy because of their pure love, their pure bhakti for him. And as we see in several pastimes, including the gopis, there are times when the knowledge reasserts itself. Like when the gopis are separated from Krishna, they call out to him, and their prayers are very, very refined and indicate a knowledge of his understanding his position that they would never have gotten. They never went to school. They didn't have any way of knowing this intellectually. No one taught them that. Bhakti taught them that. Knowledge is actually subservient. It's secondary to devotion. By the devotion in their heart, they have great knowledge of Krishna. And in certain situations, they may come out. So that's the thing to understand about the knowledge and devotion relationship. So what Prabhupada's talking about when he says the Lord can be known only by the mercy of the Lord and by no other means is it's in relationship to him having talked about Gyanis, persons who are engaged in accumulating spiritual knowledge and thinking that independent study, the performance of austerities, simplicity, charity, celibacy, study of the Vedas, independent means of purifying the heart and gathering spiritual knowledge is able to actually capture the Lord. Prabhupada is affirming that no, that is not the case. You can come to an impersonal understanding, an understanding of his impersonal feature, but he will not personally give himself to such a person on the basis of their advancement in knowledge. He only gives himself to someone like these people, these wives. They're great devotees. They're pure devotees. Whether one is in one particular kind of relationship or another, a devotee is a devotee. And by virtue of their devotion, Krishna is bound to them and gives himself to them. So Prabhupada is pointing out that on one level, one could say like a yogi or a mystic or a impersonal speculator is actually higher than these women, but they're actually not. They're very much not. Because of I think what I've just kind of tried to explain. Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. That makes it more clear. Still a little confusing, but yes, much more
Good.
clear that
it's an ongoing theme in the Bhagavatam. It'll come up again and again.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's jump into chapter 12 because I'm excited to start this chapter. This is called the birth of Emperor Parikshit. Emperor Parikshit is going to play a big part in the rest of the Bhagavatam, really. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Okay, chapter 12, the birth of Emperor Parikshit. We read 4 verses. Yeah, just to summarize, Shaunika, who is part of the conversation at Naimisharanya, him and the sages are asking Suta Goswami about all these things. He's saying, well, hold on a second. We heard about how Uttara had this Maharaj Parikshit in her womb. She's his mother, but that womb was damaged. She was attacked by the Brahmastra weapon of Ashvatthama. So how was he born? And we want to hear about him because he's a great devotee. And we know we had an important conversation with Shukadeva. So what's the deal with that? So now we're going to hear about Yudhishthira's qualities as a great devotee, and then we're going to start to hear about Maharaj Parikshit. So verse 5, news even reached the celestial planets about Maharaj Yudhishthira's worldly possessions, the sacrifices by which he would attain a better destination, his queen, his stalwart brothers, his extensive land, his sovereignty over the planet Earth, his fame, etc. O Brahmanas, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that even the denizens of heaven aspired for it. But because he was so absorbed in the service of the Lord, nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service. So Parikshit is the son of Uttara, and Uttara was married to the son of Arjuna. I forget his name. The one who was killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. Remember, he was. Yeah, it's not coming to me. But he's the grandson. So Parikshit's the grandson of Arjuna.
Yeah.
So he's in that line. He's like a great a grand nephew of Yudhishthir. Ashwatthama. No, Ashwatthama is the one who tried to kill him. Abhimanyu. Yeah. Abhimanyu is Arjuna's son. Abhimanyu and Uttara are the parents of Parikshit. Now, verse 7. O Shonika, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttara, and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Ashwatthama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Verse 8. He, the Lord, was only thumb high, but he was all transcendental. He had a very beautiful, blackish, infallible body, and he wore a dress of lightning yellow and a helmet of blazing gold. Thus he was seen by the child. The Lord was enriched with 4 hands, earrings of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. The Lord was thus engaged in vanquishing the radiation of the Brahmastra, just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew. He was observed by the child, who thought about who he was. While thus being observed by the child, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead, who stretches in all directions and who is unlimited by time and space, disappeared at once. So this is going to come up later at the end of the chapter. This Parikshit, before he was born, in the womb, he was saved. And so from that time, he had a very powerful impression in his heart of Krishna. The name Parikshit actually means the examiner, the one who is seeking or looking. Why? Because he's always looking for that person who appeared to him when he was not even yet born, who saved him. He had his darshan in the womb of his own mother, which is quite far out. We think actually of Prahlad Maharaj, for example, who was in the womb of his mother and heard from Narada Muni, who was giving instructions, spiritual discussions with his mother. And in the womb, Prahlad was hearing it and was being purified by that, so much so that he was born a pure devotee. So there's a little bit of a side point here about the receptivity, actually, of the living entity, especially in the human form, how delicate and how incredibly potent, especially hearing is, but all the senses, that they can receive so much of Krishna's mercy. And what to speak of, like, your mother taking prasadam or kirtan, sometimes you have amazing things like Krishna appearing in the womb like this. And so Parikshit was, kind of like, sometimes we say scarred for life, like that, but in a good way. He was unable to forget Krishna. He had this powerful impression on his heart. We're going to hear about his qualities later. First, we're going to hear about Yudhishthira. Thereupon, when all the good signs of the zodiac gradually evolved, the heir apparent of Pandu, who would be exactly like him in prowess, took birth. King Yudhishthira, who was very satisfied with the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, had the purificatory process of birth performed. Upon the birth of his son, the king, who knew how, where, and when charity should be given, gave gold, land, villages, elephants, horses, and good food grains to the Brahmins. The Brahmin said, "This spotless son has been restored by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, in order to oblige you. He was saved when he was doomed to be destroyed by an irresistible supernatural weapon. For this reason, this child will be well known in the world as one who is protected by the personality of Godhead. O most fortunate one, there is no doubt that this child will become a first-class devotee and will be qualified with all good qualities." So one of Parikshit's names is Vishnu Rata. Vishnu Rata means one who is protected by the Lord. Because even before he stepped out into the world, he was picked out by the Lord as being such a special soul that he was particularly saved. So everybody noted that. And now we're going to have a series of verses about his qualities. The Brahmin said, "This child shall be exactly like King Ikshvaku, son of Manu, in maintaining all those who are born. And as for following the Brahminical principles, especially in being true to his promise, he shall be exactly like Rama, the personality of Godhead. This child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered, like the famous King Shibi of the Ushinana country, and he will expand the name and fame of his family like Bharata. Amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjuna. He'll be as irresistible as fire and as unsurpassable as the ocean. He'll be as strong as a lion and as worthy a shelter as the Himalaya mountains. He'll be forbearing like the earth and as tolerant as his parents. This child will be like his grandfather Yudhishthira or Brahma in equanimity of mind. He'll be munificent like the Lord of the Kailas hill, Shiva, and he'll be the resort of everyone, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is even the shelter of the goddess of fortune. This child will be almost as good as Lord Sri Krishna by following in his footsteps. In magnanimity, he will become as great as King Rantidev, and in religion, he'll be like Maharaj Yayati. This child will be like Bali Maharaj in patience, a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna like Prahlad Maharaj, a performer of many horse sacrifices and a follower of the old and experienced persons. This child will be the father of kings who will be like sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the chastiser of the upstarts and the quarrelsome. After hearing about his, what's that?
Foreshadowing here.
Foreshadowing, yeah. After hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird, sent by the son of a Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. After inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadeva, who will be a great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachment and achieve a life of fearlessness. Thus, those who were expert in astronomical knowledge instructed King Yudhishthira about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. So, we know he's going to be a great soul in so many ways. We also know he's destined to die, which actually everyone's destined to die in the material world, but he's going to die in a unique way. Having been cursed to die, he'll accept the curse, and he'll die after taking instruction from the son of Vyasadeva, who also hasn't been born yet, but they're also predicting he's going to be an incredibly important philosopher and sage.
And also his discovery, Parikshit's discovery of that death is what this whole Bhagavatam is telling him what to do.
Yeah,
when he has that.
It's going to come up in the next few chapters, but Parikshit's being cursed precipitates him letting go of everything material and just sitting down on the banks of the Ganga and wanting the answer to a few questions, especially what is my primary duty now? Now that everything else is gone and the writing's on the wall and I'm going to die, what is my duty at this time of death? It's a question he asked Shukadeva Goswami. And the basic answer is you should hear about Krishna. You should remember Krishna. Focus your mind and your heart on your source now. And they have a long conversation that takes up the bulk of the whole Bhagavatam. So for the sages in Naimisharanya, for all of us, this conversation is extremely important. And a lot of what's happening in this first canto is setting the stage for that conversation. So in purport to verse 30, Srila Prabhupada talks about this quality of Maharaj Parikshit who had an impression in his heart. Child Parikshit, after coming out of the womb, was in the habit of examining everyone to see whether he was the same personality whom he first saw in the womb, but no one could be equal to or more attractive than the Lord, and therefore he never accepted anyone. But the Lord was constantly with him by such examination, and thus Maharaj Parikshit was always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord by remembrance. Srila Jiva Goswami remarks in this connection that every child, if given an impression of the Lord from their very childhood, certainly becomes a great devotee of the Lord like Maharaj Parikshit. And Srila Prabhupada actually does something he doesn't really do very often in this purport. He talks about himself in the first person. He says, there is a practical example in my personal life in this connection. My father was a pure devotee of the Lord, and when I was only 4 or 5 years old, my father gave me a couple of forms of Radha and Krishna. In a playful manner, I used to worship these deities along with my sister, and I used to imitate the performances of a neighboring temple of Radha Govinda. By constantly visiting this neighboring temple and copying the ceremonies in connection with my own deities of play, I developed a natural affinity for the Lord. My father used to observe all the ceremonies befitting my position. Later on, these activities were suspended due to my association in the schools and colleges, and I became completely out of practice. But in my youthful days, when I met my spiritual master, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, again I revived my old habit, and the same playful deities became my worshipful deities in proper regulation. This was followed up until I left the family connection, and I am pleased that my generous father gave me the first impression, which was developed later into regulative devotional service by his divine grace. Maharaj Prahlad also advised that such impressions of a godly relation must be impregnated from the beginning of childhood. Otherwise, one may miss the opportunity of the human form of life, which is very valuable, although it is temporary like others. So practically everybody here is like, we've come to bhakti later in life. I mean, I was almost 30. Some of us older. It's fine. Lord Chaitanya's mercy is completely available always. And so at the same time, there's special mercy. Imagine if you're hearing about Krishna from the time of, in Parikshit's case, even before birth. So that's something Prabhupada is going out of his way to talk about here. Verse 31, As the moon in its waxing fortnight develops day after day, so the royal prince very soon developed luxuriantly under the care and full facilities of his guardian grandfathers. That would be the Pandavas. Just at this time, King Yudhishthira was considering performing a horse sacrifice to get freed from sins incurred from fighting with kinsmen. But he became anxious to get some wealth, for there were no surplus funds outside of fines and tax collection. Understanding the hearty wishes of the king, his brothers, advised by the infallible Lord Krishna, collected sufficient riches from the north. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, being invited to the sacrifice by Maharaj Yudhishthira, saw to it that they were performed by qualified brahmanas. And after that, for the pleasure of the relatives, the Lord remained a few months. O Shaunaka, thereafter the Lord, having bade farewell to King Yudhishthira, Draupadi, and other relatives, started for the city of Dvarka, accompanied by Arjuna and other members of the Yadu dynasty. All right, chapter 12, Ki Jai.
Wait, Sonika is another, what, is that another name?
Shaunaka is the questioner of Sutta Goswami.
Okay.
He's speaking on behalf of all the sages at Naimisharanya.
Okay, he's talking to him.
Yeah.
He's just addressing him as he tells the story.
Yeah, the sages elected Sutta Goswami to teach them. And out of all the sages, Shaunaka is kind of the chief. So Sutta is talking to all of them, but he's talking, naming Shaunaka. They're having a conversation, everyone else is listening. Yeah. Yeah, one thing to note is interesting, I found it interesting, is that what we see in the Bhagavatam is that instruction takes place one-on-one or one-to-many. Like Sutta Goswami is teaching, Shaunaka is also teaching everyone who's present there. What we don't find is many-to-one or many-to-many. Why am I saying this? Well, for one thing, modern systems of knowledge, you may not think of it as a system of knowledge, but look at like social media, right? If you open up your Facebook page, what do you have? You have 200 different gurus giving you 200 different perspectives on life. Everyone is saying something. And because of the organization of that platform and every social media platform, they are all placed on a democratic, even platform, as if they're all the same, as if they're all on the same spiritual or consciousness level. They're not. One person is in the mode of passion, one is in ignorance, one is in goodness, one is a great devotee, if you're lucky, on your Facebook page. And so we're getting bombarded, actually. We have media everywhere. We have billboards. And so we're getting instruction from many to one or many to many, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You don't get real knowledge that way. You get real knowledge by picking a good teacher and sitting down. You can sit down with others, that's okay, but one teacher, sit and listen. Don't like put them all together and say like, well, actually, based on these 100 things, I like that, and I don't like that, and it's kind of like make a little philosophy of my own, and it doesn't work. So note that, because that's actually what happens in the Bhagavatam. There's always one person someone goes to and asks a question. There's always a conversation. It's not this weird, artificially even thing where it's like, yeah, everyone's opinions are equally valid. I'm sorry, they're not. They're not. Like, if you take me, in front of the school of like architecture and say, Shamya Pras, give us an opinion on architecture, I'd be like, go inside and ask the teacher. I don't have anything important to say. Whatever I have to, I have no valid opinion on architecture. I'm not a teacher of architecture. Like, we have to see the qualifications. So they've ascertained that Sutta Goswami is a teacher. They're hearing from him. So, Hare Krishna. Let's stop for a second and take reflections, and then we'll jump into chapter 13. Anything you heard? Tanya.
Thank you for class today. One purport caught my eye, and it's in the beginning of the chapter when you first started reading, and it said, the whole material world is full of hungry living beings, but the hunger is not for good food or shelter or sense gratification. The hunger is for spiritual atmosphere. And it goes on. I just that whole purport I thought was just really interesting. That leaders and people out there in the world just think that they just need to satisfy people by giving them food, giving them shelter, giving them this and that. But really, what people are continually hungry for is that connection,
right,
with Krishna. If
the
they're
Romans
enlightened, yeah.
The Romans called it bread and circuses. Give them gladiatorial fights and give them food, and the masses will be satisfied. But there's a deeper hankering. Great point. Thank you.
Rama Swami says that it's the
Hunger of the soul.
heart,
Hunger of the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
soul and heart, which is what the real, that real hunger. Because there's people going hungry, and there's people that don't have food, and so that's true, right?
Yeah.
And that the real problem in our society is that starvation of
Right.
the soul.
Right. Because meeting the material needs, we can observe, it doesn't actually solve the problems of life
Mm.
in and of itself. It's necessary, but not sufficient. Yeah. Great. Okay, let's jump into chapter 13. Okay.
Say, I kind of consolidated it, so make sure it's correct. But you said knowledge doesn't teach us devotion, bhakti does.
Yeah, I was saying that knowledge is secondary to bhakti in relationship to the queens, who, like a lot of pure devotees, don't generally manifest full knowledge of Krishna's divinity, but sometimes do. That knowledge that they got wasn't a function of independent study; it was a function of their devotion. Devotion actually begets knowledge. Like if you actually chant purely and associate with devotees, you will have knowledge that is causeless. There's no like material reason why you should have that knowledge. You'll realize you're not your body. You'll realize your relationship with Krishna. You'll realize his form. Those are extremely high aspects of knowledge, for example. And so those are functions of devotion, and not the other way around. Devotion doesn't come about because of sufficient study. It's the other way around. Yeah. Good. All right. We'll pause again after chapter 13, and I think I'm going to try to get chapter 14 in, so we'll see. So we'll have a couple more chances to reflect. Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home. We've got a bit of a change of venue here. So, we're going to hear about Vidura. Vidura, well, let's see if Srila Prabhupada talks about him. Yeah, he does. Okay, verse 1. Sri Suta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya, and then returned to Hastinapura. He became as well versed in the subject as he desired. So who is he? Prabhupada talks about it in the purport. As he often does in this first canto, he goes Vidura, and he just like gives you like a encyclopedic entry, summary of his life. He was conceived by Vyasadeva in the womb of the maidservant of Ambika, mother of Maharaj Pandu. He's the incarnation of Yamaraj. Being cursed, so the idea is that being cursed by a certain Muni, Yamaraj was forced to take birth. Yamaraj is the demigod who is granted practically a level of awareness that only the super soul himself understands of the contents of people's hearts, because his dharma, his duty to Krishna, is to actually judge what the destination of a living entity is after one life and into the next, when they're still interested in staying in the material world, what they want and what they deserve. So he's an assessor of karma. He's a great soul. He's a devotee. He's one of the 12 devotional what's that?
Was it the Maha?
Mahajanas, yeah. The devotional what's the word I'm looking for? Authorities presented in Canto 6. But he had to take birth as a Shudra for reasons that are interesting, but I'm going to kind of skip over. And so he comes as Vidura. And Vidura is the brother of Pandu and Dhritarashtra. So Pandu is the father of all the Pandavas, and Dhritarashtra is the father of Duryodhana. And there's this kind of like enmity between the two brothers' children, in the sense that Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra always wanted to rule, and they were always doing things to the Pandavas that were unfair, pulling them from the throne, and that's the kind of backstory to the Battle of Kurukshetra. Now Vidura is also their brother, but he was never qualified to rule because his mother was a maid. Although his father was Vyasadeva, his mother didn't come from high parentage, and he accepted that he was in a Shudra position, materially. But everyone respected him as a great soul. And Prabhupada talks about this. Although Vidura did not inherit the property of his father, still he was given sufficient state property. Vidura was very much attached to his elder brother, and all along he tried to guide him on the right path, Dhritarashtra. He tried to guide him, always. During the fratricidal war of Kurukshetra, Vidura repeatedly implored his elder brother to do justice to the sons of Pandu, but Duryodhana did not like such interference by his uncle, and thus he practically insulted Vidura. This resulted in Vidura's leaving home for pilgrimage and taking instructions from Maitreya. So he was kicked out unceremoniously and quite rudely by his nephew, Duryodhana, just for speaking truth, because it wasn't appreciated. The truth was that they were disrespecting the sons of Pandu, who were the rightful heirs to the throne. So he went on pilgrimage, which is an option. You can always do that. Balaram does it. A lot of great devotees do it. And at this point, he's coming back. And so why he's coming back and what he's going to do is the subject of this chapter. Verse 2, after asking various questions and being established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitreya Muni. Actually, their conversation will take place later in the Bhagavatam. You'll hear some of it. When they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhishthir, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, many other wives of the Kauravas and other ladies with children, all hurried to him in great delight. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. With great delight, they all approached him as if life had returned to their bodies. Due to anxieties and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhishthir then offered sitting accommodations and a reception. After Vidura ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who were present there listened. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, "My uncle, do you remember how you always protected us, along with our mother, from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and arson." Yeah, these are activities from the Mahabharata. Backstory to the Bhagavad Gita. While traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimage sites did you render service? My lord, here's a famous verse. 1:13:10. This is a nice verse to memorize. Bhavadvida bhagavatas tirthaputas sayang vibho tirti kurvanti tirtani santas tena gadaprata. My lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. From the purport, a pure devotee like Vidura always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere. He sees everything in the potency of the Lord and the Lord in everything. The holy places are meant for purifying the polluted consciousness of the human being by an atmosphere surcharged with the presence of the Lord's unalloyed devotees. If anyone visits a holy place, they must search out the pure devotees residing in such holy places, take lessons from them, try to apply such instructions in practical life, and thus gradually prepare oneself for the ultimate salvation, going back to Godhead. To go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take a bath in the Ganges or Yamuna, or to visit the temples situated there. One should also find representatives of Vidura who have no desire in life save and except to serve the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service. Verse 11. My uncle, you must have visited Dvarka. Remember, we heard that Krishna went to Dvarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of the Lord Sri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? I'm going to consult my notes here real quick. So, verse 12, thus being questioned by Maharaj Yudhishthir, Mahatma Vidura, here's an epithet, like a little title for him, Mahatma. They call it Gandhi Mahatma, great soul. Mahatma means literally, Maha means great, Atma, soul. Great soul Vidura gradually described everything he had personally experienced, except news of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Does Prabhupada talk about this? He does. Verse 13, compassionate Mahatma Vidura could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, he did not disclose this unpalatable and unbearable incident, because calamities come of their own accord. Purport. According to Niti Shastra, civic laws, one should not speak an unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. Distress comes upon its own way, upon us in its own way by the laws of nature, so one should not aggravate it by propaganda. It's like gossip is like spreading bad news and kind of relishing that. Oh, did you hear about who just divorced that person? Or did you hear about who's sick and who's dying? It's like there's already suffering enough. Don't multiply it. And so the point here is, for a compassionate soul like Vidura, especially in his dealings with the beloved Pandavas, it was almost impossible to disclose an unpalatable piece of news, like the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Therefore, he purposely refrained from it. I wonder if Srila Prabhupada is going to talk about it here. I don't think so. I'll just mention it. Well, you know what? If he doesn't do it, then I won't either, because it's going to come up later in this first canto. But enough to know that something has happened. The Yadu dynasty means Krishna's descendants. Something has happened, and they're not on the planet anymore. And why and how, we're going to hear about later. But he didn't want to share it, although he knew about it. Thus, Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period, just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother, and in this way bring happiness to all the others. So that's his purpose. His purpose was to help Dhritarashtra. Vidura. Verse 17. Insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed in their thought. Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhritarashtra, saying, "My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you." Okay, how does this work? Dhritarashtra is the brother, the elder brother of Vidura. And yeah, Prabhupada talks about it. Let's quote Prabhupada here. Purport to verse 18. Dhritarashtra was the eldest son of his father, and therefore, according to law, he was to be installed on the throne. But because he was blind from birth, he was disqualified from his rightful claim. But he could not forget the bereavement, and his disappointment was somewhat compensated after the death of Pandu, his younger brother. His younger brother left behind some minor children. They were young, they were not adults yet. And Dhritarashtra, who's their uncle, became the natural guardian of them. But at heart, he wanted to become the king and hand the kingdom over to his own sons, headed by Duryodhana. With all these imperial ambitions, Dhritarashtra wanted to become a king, and he contrived all sorts of intrigues in consultation with his brother-in-law, Shakuni. But everything failed by the will of the Lord, and at the last stage, even after losing everything, men and money, he wanted to remain as king, being the eldest uncle of Maharaj Yudhishthir. So he's the speaker at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. He's asking Sanjaya what happened, what is happening in Kurukshetra, because he wasn't there. But Sanjaya has the ability to see. He had a yogic gift. He could understand what's happening at the battle, so he's describing it to him. Sanjaya is his servant, and a pure devotee, actually. But Dhritarashtra was very much interested in only seeing his sons profit. And so he was deeply attached to this point of view. And not only did they lose, they were all killed. Their entire army was killed. And Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari remain alive. And they're living in the home of their nephew, Yudhishthir. Now consider the irony of this situation, because they tried, Gandhari was actually a pure soul and never did anything untoward in any way. But he was always trying to kill the Pandavas for the sake of letting his own sons be in power. And here he is living in the house of his nephew, because he has nowhere to go. He's blind. All his wealth has been taken from him. All of his sons, his entire family is dead, except for his nephews, who he tried to fight for so long. And now he's living like a beggar in their house. And they're taking care of him because they're so pious. They're like, well, he's our uncle. So that's the situation. From the purport, Vidura as a saint and the duty-bound, affectionate younger brother of Dhritarashtra wanted to awaken Dhritarashtra from his slumber of disease and old age. Vidura therefore sarcastically addressed Dhritarashtra as the quote-unquote king, which he actually was not. Everyone is the servant of eternal time, and therefore no one can be king in this material world. King means the person who can order. The celebrated English king wanted to order time and tide, but the time and tide refused to obey his order. Therefore, one is a false king in the material world. and Dhritarashtra was particularly reminded of this false position and of the factual, fearful happenings which had already approached him at that time. Vidura asked him to get out immediately if he wanted to be saved from the fearful situation that was approaching him fast. He did not ask Maharaj Yudhishthira in that way because he knew that a king like Maharaj Yudhishthira is aware of all the fearful situations of this flimsy world and would take care of himself in due course, even though Vidura might not be present at that time. Dhritarashtra is very attached, and Vidura is coming to sever that attachment out of compassion. Note that his approach is unique. Like, there's different kinds of teaching. We've seen the Bhagavatam already. We've heard, Narada Muni instructing his disciple Vyasadeva in a certain way. Like, first he waited for Vyasadeva to ask the question, "Hey, Guru Maharaj, I'm not feeling right. What's the problem?" And then he gave instructions, and he tells his own story to support the instruction. We see other kinds of instructions in other places. Here we're going to see Vidura be very frank and very cutting. And the reason for that, one reason is that he's a brother. They've known each other their whole lives. Another reason is that time is of the essence. Dhritarashtra is an old man. He's going to die. The writing's on the wall, and still he's living as if he's got some material prospect. It's embarrassing to a great soul like Vidura that this person is wasting the last bit of his life is circling the drain. Please, he's pleading with him. So keep that in mind when you read these instructions, because they're quite straightforward and heavy. Verse 19, this frightful situation cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of God as eternal time that has approached us all. Whoever is under the influence of supreme eternal time must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things, such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. Your father, brother, well-wishers, and sons are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity, and you are living in the home of another. You have been blind from your very birth, and recently you have become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened, and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you are coughing up mucus. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life. Verily you are living just like a household dog, and are eating remnants of food given by Bhima. Right? Because he's living off of charity.
From the people who he betrayed.
From the people he betrayed and tried to kill.
Mm-hmm.
He's been compared to a street dog, right? This is to jar him, to wake him up. So Prabhupada talks in the purport to 23 about some of this backstory, He had become a pauper in the true sense, yet he wanted to live comfortably in the house of the Pandavas, of whom Bhima especially is mentioned personally, because personally he killed two prominent sons of Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana and Dushasana. Bhima had dueled with Dushasana and Duryodhana, killed both of them, two beloved sons of Dhritarashtra, and now he's here living off of whatever Bhima gives him. Why was Dhritarashtra living there at the house of the Pandavas? Because he wanted to continue his life comfortably, even at the risk of all humiliation. Vidura therefore was astonished how powerful is the urge to continue life. This sense of continuing one's life indicates that a living being is eternally a living entity and does not want to change their bodily habitation. The foolish person does not know that a particular term of bodily existence is awarded to them to undergo a term of imprisonment, and the human body is awarded after many, many births and deaths as a chance for self-realization to go back home, back to Godhead. Mm-hmm. But persons like Dhritarashtra try to make plans to live there in a comfortable position with profit and interest, for they do not see things as they are. Dhritarashtra is blind and continues to hope to live comfortably in the midst of all kinds of reverses of life. A sadhu, saintly person like Vidura, is meant to awaken such blind persons and thus help them go back to Godhead, where life is eternal. Once going there, no one wants to come back to this material world full of miseries. We can just imagine how responsible a task is entrusted to a sadhu like Mahatma Vidura. Verse 24. There is no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you tried to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted their married wife and usurped their kingdom and wealth. Despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown remote place and freed from all obligations quits his material body when it has become useless. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. Please therefore leave for the north immediately, without letting your relatives know, for soon that time will approach, which will diminish the good qualities of men. That's a reference to the age of Kali that was approaching. That's the age we live in now. This is in the previous age, but when Krishna left, that signaled the beginning of the age of Kali, and Vidura knows it's coming. So individually for Dhritarashtra and on the whole for society, it's not going to be a good time. So stop holding on to this idea of winning the material game. You can contrast this with the modern politicians and power mongers who you have to rip their hands from the throne of the scepter of the throne. Like they're just like desperately holding on to power, authority, money for as long as they can. It's pathetic, actually pathetic. How sad the living entity is to just hold on to, and they act as if they're going to live forever. They act as if the actions that they're undergoing, that they're perpetuating, have no consequence. So Dhritarashtra was like that, shameless, really shameless. And Vidura loved him. This isn't a chastisement out of disgust, out of condemnation, contempt. It's out of love. Like, look at yourself. Don't you see you're going to die? What are you holding on to? You have nothing left. Please, like, finally, at the last moment, better late than never, invest in your relationship with Krishna. So that's the message for him. It's a message for all of us. And contrast that with these desperate Kali Yuga power mongers. So, going on. Thus, Maharaj Dhritarashtra, the scion of the family of Ajamita, firmly convinced by introspective knowledge, broke at once the strong network of familial affection by his resolute determination. Thus, he immediately left home to set out on the path of liberation, as directed by his younger brother Vidura. The gentle and chaste Gandhari, his wife, followed her husband, seeing that he was going to the Himalaya mountains, which are the delight of those who have accepted the staff of the renounced orders. So, a couple of verses about Maharaj Yudhishthira realizing that Dhritarashtra's not there anymore. He's asking, where is my well-wisher, Uncle Vidura, and Mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to all her sons' demise. My uncle Dhritarashtra was also mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I am very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offenses very seriously and along with his wife drown himself in the Ganga? So Yudhishthira is such a saintly person that when he sees that Dhritarashtra is not there, he blames himself, like, oh no, what have I done? Has he taken offense? Have I done something to hurt him? Although Dhritarashtra tried to murder him many times. Sutta Goswami said, verse 35, because of compassion and mental agitation, Sanjaya, not having seen his own master, Dhritarashtra, was aggrieved and could not properly reply to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Verse 37, my dear descendant of the Kuru dynasty, Sanjaya said, I have no information of the determination of your two uncles and Gandhari, O king. I have been cheated by those great souls. He was a loyal servant of Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya, and so he's feeling heartbroken that his master has left. And who steps into the scene? Narada. Verse 38. While Sanjaya was thus speaking, Sri Narada, the powerful devotee of the Lord, appeared on the scene carrying his tumburu. So they greet him, and Narada speaks. Verse 41. Yeah, it's an instrument, yeah. Verse 41. O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is he only who brings them together and disperses them. Verse 43, as a player sets up and disperses his playthings according to his own sweet will, so the supreme will of the Lord brings men together and separates them. Verse 46, this gross material body made up of 5 elements is already under the control of eternal time, kala, action, karma, and the modes of material nature, guna. How then can it, already being the jaws of the serpent, protect others? Verse 47, another famous verse. Those who are devoid of hands are prey for those who have hands. Those devoid of legs are prey for the four-legged. The weak are the subsistence of the strong, and the general rule holds that one living being is food for another. Jivo jivasya jivanam. Living in the world, material world, everybody is existing at the cost of another person, living entity. Even devotees, we have to eat something. You can't walk, can't breathe without killing some bacteria. It's the nature of the world, the material world. And so Narada is reminding them of this.
That'd be a good verse to quote when someone asks a vegetarian, will you also kill vegetables?
Yeah, we're not actually vegetarians, we're prasaditarians.
Mm-hmm.
We stick with foods in the mode of goodness like vegetarians do, but we don't just eat them, we try to offer them to Krishna because we want to, in everything we do, including our eating processes, be connected. Otherwise, we have to pay some karmic price. And, like we have a right to live, don't get me wrong, but the devotee is not interested in just like continuing in a world of exploitation, whether one is winning that exploitation or losing. It's not really a game they want to play. They're really just connecting everything to Krishna, and that puts you to transcendental the whole system. It doesn't implicate you in the system anymore. But Narada is pointing out, even for devotees, even for great souls, when they're in the world, they have to leave it at some point. There is still a system in place. They have to leave their bodies. So time has moved them on. Therefore, O king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only, who is one without a second, and who manifests himself by different energies, and is both within and without. O king, verse 51, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidura, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelters of the great sages. On the banks of Saptasrota, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire, and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the senses and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection. Dhritarashtra will have to amalgamate his pure identity with intelligence and then merge to the Supreme Being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness as a living entity with the Supreme Brahman. Being freed from the blocked sky, he will have to rise to the spiritual sky. O king, he will quit his body most probably on the 5th day from today, and his body will turn to ashes. While outside observing her husband, who will burn in the fire of mystic power, along with his thatched cottage, his chaste wife will enter the fire with rapt attention. Vidura, being affected with delight and grief, will then leave that place of sacred pilgrimage. Having spoken thus, the great sage Narada, along with his Veena, another instrument, ascended into outer space. Yudhishthira kept his instruction in his heart, and so was able to get rid of all lamentations. So, Dhritarashtra was not a pure devotee. He had not begun the process of devotional service, even though he lived with Krishna. He had material attachments, even at the end of his life. And so we see that his process is different than the process of devotees because he's not actually qualified for devotional service. He had too much still in his heart. So he's performing these austerities. He's performing fire sacrifices, fasting, and he's performing mystic yoga so much so that his body is going to die anyway, basically. His body is going to be incinerated in the fire of mystic yoga. And his wife is going to follow in his footsteps and also leave her body. He takes this path because he doesn't have the direct path of bhakti. Prabhupada talks about it in the purports. I'm just summarizing it for us because we don't have to do that. It's not for us. But Dhritarashtra was reminded of how he had wasted his entire life. And at least before he could cross the finish line and die, he tried to do something. And so he made some progress.
Yoga ladder.
Yeah, the yoga ladder. And Vidura was very happy that he was able to get through to his brother, but also grief-stricken. So he witnessed this and then he continued on his own way. So this is a bit of a standalone chapter. And we'll pause now before we go into chapter 14 and see if we have any reflections.
Thank you so much. I have just a question about where this fits in. It's sort of like seems to jump that Vidura knows about the Yadu dynasty being destroyed, but Krishna hasn't left the planet yet. You know,
Yeah.
and the Yadu dynasty doesn't get destroyed until after Krishna is gone. So I'm like, how does Vidura have this is he a seer? Does he have this this forward knowledge or this vision?
No. The next chapter is entitled The Disappearance of Lord Krishna.
Ah.
Vidura knows because he heard it from Maitreya. And their conversation in detail is given in the third canto and maybe part of the fourth. Yeah. But he knows it. It's happened. But the word hasn't reached Yudhishthir. And therefore, he doesn't want to be the bearer of bad news. We're going to hear about it in the next chapter,
Okay.
which is why I'm giving it a spoiler.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're right. The timeline doesn't quite add up.
Okay.
It's a function of their. Vidura knows something that they don't know yet, but it has already happened. He's not predicting the future.
Okay.
It's just like they're in different places.
They're in different places.
Yeah.
Any other reflections? Okay. Let's see how much of chapter 14 we can actually get through. The disappearance of Lord Krishna. I know, right? No. Verse 1, Sutta Goswami said, Arjuna went to Dvarka to see Lord Krishna and other friends and also learn from the Lord of his next activities. A few months passed and Arjuna did not return. Maharaj Yudhishthira then began to observe some inauspicious omens which were fearful in themselves. He saw that the direction of eternal time had changed. This was very fearful. There were disruptions in the seasonal regularities. The people in general had become very greedy, angry, and deceitful. They were adopting foul means of livelihood. All ordinary transactions and dealings became polluted with cheating, even between friends. In familial affairs, there was always misunderstanding between fathers, mothers, and sons, between well-wishers and between brothers. Even between husband and wife, there was always strain and quarrel. In course of time, it came to pass that people in general became accustomed to greed, anger, pride, etc. Maharaj Yudhishthira, observing all these omens, spoke to his younger brother, Bhima. He said to Bhima, I sent Arjuna to Dvarka to meet his friends and to learn from the personality of Godhead, Krishna, of his program of work. Since he departed, 7 months have passed, yet he has not returned. I do not factually know how things are going there. Is he going to quit his earthly pastimes? As Devarshi Narada indicated, has that time already arrived?
Is he referring to Krishna or
Krishna.
Yeah.
From him, Krishna, from him only, all our kingly opulence, good wives, lives, progeny, control over our subjects, victory over our enemies, and future accommodations in higher planets have become possible. All this is due to his causeless mercy on us. Just see, O man with the tiger's strength, how many miseries due to celestial influences, earthly reactions, and bodily pains are foreboding danger in the near future by diluting our intelligence. He's noticing these inauspicious symptoms. So there's a series of verses of this observation he has. The left side of my body, my thighs, arms, and eyes are all quivering again and again. I'm having heart palpitations due to fear. All this indicates undesirable happenings. Just see how the she-jackal cries at the rising sun and vomits fire, and how the dog barks at me fearlessly. Now, useful animals like cows are passing me on my left side, and lower animals like the asses are circumambulating me. My horses appear to weep upon seeing me. Just see. This pigeon is like a messenger of death. The shrieks of the owls and the rival crows make my heart tremble. It appears they want to make a void of the whole universe. Something's happening. The natural world itself is in disarray. Just see how the smoke encircles the sky. It appears the earth and mountains are throbbing. Hear the cloudless thunder and see the bolts from the blue. The wind blows violently, blasting dust everywhere and creating darkness. Clouds are raining everywhere with bloody disasters. Etc., etc., etc. There's a series of scary indications. Verse 21, I think that all these earthly disturbances indicate some greater loss to the good fortune of the world. The world was fortunate to have been marked with the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord. These signs indicate that this will no longer be. Verse 22. While Maharaj Yudhishthir, observing the inauspicious signs on the earth at that time, was thus thinking to himself, Arjuna came back from the city of the Yadus, from Dvarka. When he bowed down at his feet, the king saw that his dejection was unprecedented. His, Arjuna's, head was down, and tears glided from his lotus eyes. Seeing Arjuna pale due to heartfelt anxieties, the king, remembering the indications of the sage Narada, questioned him in the midst of friends. 25. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, My dear brother, please tell me whether our friends and relatives, such as Madhu, Bhoja, Dasharha, Arha, Satvata, Andaka, and the members of the Yadu family are all passing their days in happiness? Is my respectful grandfather Shurasen in a happy mood? And are my maternal uncle Vasudeva and his younger brothers all doing well? His 7 wives, headed by Devaki, are all sisters. Are they and their sons and daughters-in-law all happy? He's asking about Akrura, Kritavarma, Balaram. How is Pradyumna? How is Aniruddha? Verse 31, are all the chieftain sons of Lord Krishna, such as Sushena, Chaudradeshna, Samba, the son of Jambavati, and Rishapa, along with all their sons, all doing well? Also Shrutadev, Uttava, and others, Nanda, Sunanda, and other leaders of liberated souls, who are constant companions of the Lord, are protected by Lord Balaram and Krishna. Are they all doing well in their respective functions? Do they, who are all eternally bound in friendship with us, remember our welfare? Is Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives pleasure to the cows, the senses, and the brahmanas, who is very affectionate toward his devotees, enjoying the pious assembly at Dvarka, surrounded by friends? The original personality of Godhead, the enjoyer, and Balaram, the primeval Lord Ananta, are staying in the ocean of the Yadu dynasty for the welfare, protection, and progress of the entire universe. And the members of the Yadu dynasty, being protected by the arms of the Lord, are enjoying life like the residents of the spiritual sky. Simply by administering comforts at the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the most important of all services, the queens at Dvarka, headed by Satyabhama, induced the Lord to conquer the demigods. Thus the queens enjoy things which are prerogatives of the wives of the controller of thunderbolts. Verse 39, my dear brother Arjuna, please tell me whether your health is all right. You appear to have lost your bodily luster. So in the next few verses, Yudhishthira is going to guess, like, what could have disappointed Arjuna this much? Is this due to others disrespecting and neglecting you because of your long stay at Dvarka? Verse 40, has someone addressed you with unfriendly words or threatened you? Could you not give charity to one who asked? Or could you not keep your promise to someone? Prabhupada talks about this in the purport 40, like a kshatriya or a rich man is sometimes visited by persons who are in need of money. When they are asked for a donation, it is the duty of the possessor of wealth to give in charity in consideration of the person, place, and time. If a kshatriya or a rich man fails to comply with this obligation, he must be very sorry for this discrepancy. Similarly, one should not fail to keep his promise to give in charity. These discrepancies are sometimes causes of despondency, and thus failing, a person becomes subjected to criticism, which might also be the cause of Arjuna's plight. It's an interesting glimpse into the dharmic nature of Yudhishthira, like how pious he is. He's guessing, like, okay, I know that you're like unfailing in giving charity. Were you unable to give? You're always the protector of the deserving living beings, such as brahmanas, children, cows, women, and the diseased. Could you not give them protection when they approached you for shelter? These are 5 objects of mercy. One must always give shelter to brahmanas, children, cows, women, and the elderly, or in this case is the diseased, infirm. Prabhupada talks about this again. Keep in mind, Arjuna, as is Yudhishthira, they're kshatriyas. Their nobility, their position in society is to give shelter to persons. That's what they do. They're not Brahmins. They're not business persons. They're not Shudras. They're administrators. So Yudhishthira is beginning by asking, like, have you failed in your duty? Have you contacted a woman of impeachable character? Or have you not properly treated a deserving woman? Or have you been defeated on the way by someone who is inferior or equal to you? The sacred duty of protecting women. Have you fallen from that standard? Also something that Kshatriya must do. Verse 43, have you not taken care of old men and boys who deserve to dine with you? Have you left them and taken your meals alone? Have you committed some unpardonable mistake which is considered to be abominable? Verse 44. Or is it that you are feeling empty for all time because you might have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Oh, my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason for your becoming so dejected. Purport. All the inquisitiveness of Maharaj Yudhishthira about the world situation was already conjectured by Maharaj Yudhishthira on the basis of Lord Krishna's disappearance from the vision of the world. And this was now disclosed by him because of the acute dejection of Arjuna, which could not have been possible otherwise. So even though he was doubtful about it, he was obliged to inquire frankly from Arjuna on the basis of Sri Narada's indication. End of chapter 14. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Somber note.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take some reflections on anything you heard today. We went through 3 chapters. Well done, everyone. Yeah. Only 5 chapters left.
Wow.
We're done for the day. We're not going to read anymore, so it's all reflections now. What'd you hear? Laura's smiling.
Well, I heard that we're prasaditarians.
We're prasaditarians.
That's awesome. And I love
know.
that because one of my current goals is to be working on doing better with offering my food. And
Wow.
I'm an animal rights activist, and I'm trying to also kind of make that switch over to shift in my head of bringing the Krishna consciousness forward first, you know, and having that take, so that I'm not kind of becoming that angry kind
Yeah.
of activist type person, and bringing the love and compassion into it. And I also loved when you were saying to memorize the verse 1:13:10. So that's going to be something to try and focus on this week as well. And then to saying that turning all of our places into a place of pilgrimage, which, you know, Prabhupada talks about. Vrindavan is always with us, whether we're there or not. Like it's in our heart and in our soul. And trying to do that with our altars, and, you know, creating that, it's been, you know, is something. So it's like that kind of thing kind of came through a few times here today, what you were saying. So
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. And yeah, you know, like just trying to be a vegetarian is good. Harm reduction is a great thing, but actually offering food to Krishna and taking prasadam, it's so touching to the heart, and it's such a positive step. It's not just like not doing harm. You can feel it when you take prasadam and you offer food to Krishna, which becomes prasad, or if you distribute prasad, it is itself positive spiritual activity, and even a little goes a long way. So maybe like I know some devotees who are they're not their whole diet is not yet in the mode of goodness, so they're not able to offer everything they cook or eat, but they can offer some things, and that's completely valid. And it's a great avenue for spiritual growth, as much as hearing and associating. It's just like getting in the habit of making offerings. Offerings can be quite simple. You can just get the food and chant Hare Krishna over it. And if anyone wants to know more about that,
I put it in the chat, that document that we had made, the Cooking
Yeah.
for Krishna.
we made a little document, little
Really simple.
spiritual document for anyone. And if you have any more questions, just let us know. Talk to us. That's what we're here to do. We want the whole world to take prasad, even living entities like mice,
Mhm.
spiders. Haribol. Jai, more reflections?
That's so sad. I'll just,
Tough note,
just
right?
reflect that I'm a little sad here. You know, I knew it was coming. I also know the backstory to what happens to the Yadus.
Yeah.
Well, they all get drunk and kill each other.
Well, yeah, that's the manifest cause, but the ultimate cause was that Krishna had to wind them up and leave they had
Yeah.
to leave the material world. They couldn't stay behind. So they wound up the pastimes, but it was ghastly, and it was and it is sad. But we're going to next week process this through the heart and words of Arjuna,
Yeah.
who was there, and that's powerful.
And I also liked, when, Vidura helping his brother, and
Yeah,
sister-in-law. No, the time is of the essence. You have to
yeah,
start to take this seriously. You've completely missed the boat, and it's getting worse that you're actually sitting here, eating scraps from Bhima. And you have to get out of this material world and go to the Himalayas and start to take this spiritual life seriously. And
right.
and it's amazing to me that Yudhisthira is still like, where are they? And he sort of forgets that they tried to kill him, constantly, for years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's so pious that he's willing to overlook all of that. Still, he's
yeah.
my uncle. Still,
I
I'll take care of him.
I tell you,
Yeah,
right.
and yeah, that mode of instruction, it was quite direct because when you have a lot of time to work with, you can be indirect. When you don't, you have to be, if someone's walking in traffic, you can't be like, pardon me, sir, madam. I know I don't know you, and this is like a bit of a imposition, but I'd like to inform you that there's a car approaching. You have to just like get them,
Yeah, yeah.
throw, not, body check them if you have to, right? So, and when they see, hopefully, when they see what you've done, they'll thank you. So
Or in Kali, that might sue you.
they might sue you. Yeah. No good deed goes unpunished in Kali Yuga. However, Vidura felt like this was the way to go. Of course, he's also his brother, so he's not going to a stranger and like dropping
Unsolicited advice.
him unsolicited advice. It's kind of unsolicited, but it's also just like his bro, literally. And he's been giving that advice for years, and it's been ignored, and now it's like, okay, yeah. Any more reflections?
I have a question. So it sounds like this is this, with the disappearance of Krishna, this is the start of Kali Yuga? Is that
Yes,
the right start? Okay.
right.
So that's what happened.
And it has to. The ages go on a cycle. Krishna's going to wind up his activities just like the sun rises and it sets. Krishna's activities take place in one planet after another in different universes. He leaves one planet, he goes to somewhere else, but we miss his association. He left 5,000 years ago, and Kali Yuga's here. And still, you can associate with him through like what we're doing now, hearing about him and chanting. And thankfully for all of us, Lord Chaitanya, who is himself Krishna, has made it like absurdly easy. But yes, that is the precipitator of the end of that age.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I learned something that's pretty profound to me right now. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was just thinking about the verses 18, 20, where it talks about the rivers, tributaries, and ponds all perturbed, and I thought of the environment. And then the next thing about the calves and not eating, I thought of horrible farming practices. And then the next verse 20, I thought about, I had heard a recent episode about religious institution buildings closing because there's just not enough worshipers and not enough attendees. And even in my own place of worship, it's all much, much older people. Like there's no young. So those are closing. And then I thought of what Tanya said when I got to verse 21, that we had Krishna like right here, but we tried to fill these voids with so many other things. And like, I don't know, just those four texts were just so representative to me of all the
Yeah.
harm that's going on in the world.
It's quite relatable. If you ever feel like the world is suffering and there's signs of people not making spiritual advancement and things aren't working, the natural order is topsy-turvy. You can relate to Yudhishthir's observation. He saw that happen in real time. And as we'll see next week, when Arjuna's conversation, what it brings out is that devotees process this by continuing to take shelter of Krishna, and that helps them. It actually makes all the difference. Whereas non-devotees, either they're not aware that this is what's happening. Yes, there are so many things happening. The world is being damaged at the ecological level. It is quite unfortunate that people aren't taking spiritual practice seriously. It's considered a joke or ignored or engaged in only for materialistic purposes. All these things are true, and it's incredibly easy to practice. You can live in that bubble dream and still at any moment, by the mercy of the Mahamantra and devotees, you can turn your face towards a real spiritual life, and it becomes palpable and real for you, even in the midst of all of that. Yeah.
I was thinking about and reflecting on how, we have this insight into like extreme family drama,
Right.
right? And how many of us have experienced, family drama, not to this extent, of course, but I was thinking about how, there's pure devotees involved, there's non-pure devotees, there's, devotees, there's all different range
Yeah.
of
Mixed
family
devotees,
members.
materialists, all kinds of,
Exactly.
yeah.
And how what we see though as the pure devotees, Yudhisthira and Pandavas right there, are even after they were so clearly wronged by their family members, like to the extreme, like they were mistreated, they were cheated, they were tried to be killed, right? And then even in the end, they had emotions about that, right? However, they are so, dedicated to dharma, to duty, to it's like, yes, they did all this, my uncle did all this, however, he's my uncle and he took me in when my father died, therefore we're taking him in and we're going to feed him and we're going to care for him, and not like have him in a dungeon,
Right.
but like he gets a room and he's like part of the family. Just was thinking about how how elevated that is, and how even if for me when there's family drama, and I'm not a pure devotee, however, how can I remember like dharma and duty and feel my emotions around it, but still make a choice that's based on like Vedic truth,
right,
versus my own emotional experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's a great meditation, and it's only really possible to do that to the extent that one is Krishna conscious, because then they can actually see that common center. Otherwise, it's like the rules of Dharma are just that. They're just abstract rules. And who can follow a rule, right? It depends on how ordered your mind is.
Right.
When your mind is disordered, how can you follow like the rules of morality? You won't follow rules of morality. You'll do something immoral. If your mind is disordered enough, you'll do something immoral. That's the problem. So rather than functioning on the basis of, okay, if I'm in the mode of goodness, I can act in the mode of goodness. It's like the paradigm is, if I'm actually Krishna conscious, then whether or not I'm under the influence of other modes, if I can stay Krishna conscious, then you can see like the spark of the soul in the heart of such a envious and vicious person like Dhritarashtra, and you can deal with them as that, instead of like, oh, you, after trying to kill us so many times, now you want to come and you want to live in my palace. Like, who would actually give charity to such a person except a devotee? Right.
And like when Krishna was there with them and in this, in the happenings, maybe it's easier, quote unquote, easier to like make those choices because he's also guiding, and you just look to Krishna and ask. But then Krishna already left what to speak. He's dead. They don't, or he's left his body. They don't know that yet, but they're so Krishna conscious.
I wouldn't use the word dead, but he's left
his body. Yeah. That they still make those choices. So again, just showing like.
Not left his body, left the planet.
Okay. Left the planet.
Yeah.
Krishna's gone.
Right.
That they are so Krishna conscious that they're still making those choices.
Yeah. It's not a material science. It doesn't depend on material proximity. Right? Yeah. We're gonna get more next week. We have to stop here. I wish we can go on forever. Well, you know what? We can, but not tonight. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Hare Krishna. So next week we're going to pick up on chapter 15. Please continue to regale us with your realizations. They may seem small or insignificant to you, but they're powerful for everybody. We always read all the realizations and everything you share.
Mhm.
The WhatsApp, anything you heard from chapters 12, 13, or 14. We had a 3-for-1 today. Powerful. And we're going to try for another 3-for-1 next time. See how that goes. And we'll see you soon. Yeah, I'll have a bonus class. So 2 weeks to go in this, then we'll start the second canto. So stay tuned for more information on that. Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Krishna.
Krishna.